Nice. Hello, boys and girls. Welcome back to the SNS podcast.
Yes, sir. We are
Today,
back.
what are we going to be talking about today?
Today we're going to talk about self improvement, but more specifically, we're going to touch on why you should get into self improvement and even why you should get your friends in, but also, and I think more importantly, why shouldn't you?
Mm. Why shouldn't you get your friends into self improvement? Not why
Yeah.
shouldn't you do self improvement? Of course,
Well,
you
yeah.
should do self improvement. That's why you're listening to this podcast to get the knowledge from two of the greatest minds.
I thought it was just to like listen to our soothing, beautiful, angelic voices and, look at our handsome, devilish faces. I thought
That's
that's
just
what
the
it was.
bonus.
That's the bonus, yeah. But yes, sorry. I stand corrected. It is why you shouldn't get your friends into self-improvement. But you should definitely do self-improvement 100%. Never stop improving yourself. Other people, they might feel differently, but we're going to get to that. But yeah, before we
Yeah.
go on, I think let's quickly start this one off with what's one of the biggest takeaways we have gotten from this week that's passed on by. What would you say your biggest takeaway or your biggest
Biggest
lesson?
takeaway.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if my boss is listening to this. No, I've been doing a lot
That's a
of self reflection about what I do for work
okay.
and the parts I enjoy, the parts I don't enjoy. A lot of it, I think, so this is not really like self improvement related, but it's more of a self reflection. A lot of it has to do with whether or not I feel like I'm in control. So, for example, if I'm given a task, if I know how to do it, if I can do it, if I have the resources and the tools to do it, I'm in control of it, then I can do it. Great, feels amazing. But if I'm given a task and the inputs that are required, I have no control over, I'm waiting for other people, or there's a tool that there's a new tool and I've got no idea how to use it and no one's around to teach me, then I feel like, okay, where do I start? I feel lost. I don't feel like I have control anymore. So I think upon reflection, a lot of where I get my enjoyment from is knowing that I have control and then using my knowledge and using my control to achieve amazing results at work. That's what I did this week. A lot of reflecting on what I do and don't enjoy. How
Nice,
about
man.
you?
So mine has been very very similar. Reflection on my abilities, but more of a physical nature. So I've been really pushing myself in the gym and just overall with my fitness goals. And I've been posting quite a bit on like Instagram and just really covering like why I'm such a firm believer and why I drive so hard on like the physical and the fitness aspect of self improvement.
Yeah, your
And
physique's coming in really nicely.
yeah, thanks, man. I mean, I've literally almost broke my ass doing it. So I've started like a to transition. Oh, sorry, thought my mic unplugged. Um, I've started to transition with the calisthenics movements. So I'm moving from like foundational moves into more advanced stuff to just really like overload the muscle groups. And I've been doing like an L sit to a handstand. I've just been practicing that all week. And there's this like the bittersweet thing about this move is when you hit that sweet spot and you can get the hold, it's the most euphoric feeling ever. I mean, yes, my arms are like so tense and my shoulders are really tense. Um, but I can see myself just elevating into the air. The only problem is if I get even remotely off balance, I flip over and land on my ass. And that's what happened a couple days ago. And this time I landed in a sitting position. So the first part of my body to make contact with the ground after literally flipping myself was my balls. And
Oh,
yeah,
sounds like fun.
yeah, dude. I mean, I don't know any of the guys who are listening to this, if you've ever been kicked in the balls before, you know that sick
Oh, I'm
feeling
sure
you
everyone
get?
has.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude. Holy shit. Funny enough, I did it in front of all my calisthenics friends and the lady. So yeah, that was I mean, the way I looked at it was if he still like continues to talk to me after that, which she has. I was like, yeah, okay, she definitely likes me. She definitely thinks I'm at least like somewhat cool. But yeah, like that move was agony, pure agony. But
Mm.
I'm proud of myself because I got straight back up after I decided to casually
Nurse your balls for a little
yeah,
bit.
nurse my balls for a little bit. I kind of stumbled around, just kind of like, stretched the groin out and everything. And then I went straight back into the move. And this time I hit the sweet spot and didn't tip over. And
Stuck
I
the
think,
landing. Nice.
yeah, stuck the landing. And the good thing about that is, especially when it comes to things like calisthenics, is one, you have to understand and realize that you're going to fall a lot of the time. You're going to fail more than you actually succeed. But then when you do succeed, it it feels great. And when you do fail and you fail like pretty miserably, like i.e. landing on your balls, the one of the best things to do is to go and do that move like immediately again, so you don't get what's called the fear. Um like the fear is just like a psychological barrier that goes up in your head thinking if I do this move I'm gonna hurt myself, because you start to associate the injury or the risk of injury with the move. But my biggest takeaway for this week was to actually learn when to stop, because from like, literally overtraining that exercise, I've actually lost count on how many times I've done that one move this week. My shoulder has actually started to get really stiff, and my trap, the nerves running up my neck, started to give me a bit of stiff neck. So I just started to, take things easy, dial it back a little bit, and just do more stretching for the
Yeah.
remainder of
This
this week.
doesn't. It sounds like it's not like the regular DOMS, like muscle soreness. Sounds like it's like something else. Hey.
Yeah, this is like running the potential risk of a strain, and I'm not gonna go and
Yeah,
basically
we're not about
put
that life.
myself out. Yeah, we're not about that life. So yeah, those are my sort of takeaways from this week. And yeah, I think you could argue that self-reflection is an element of self-improvement, because it's I
And there's no argument. It definitely is.
yeah,
100%.
yeah, well, yeah, okay. So it is 100%, part of the whole like self-improvement space, which brings me on to, why should you the viewer, why should you guys get into self-improvement?
And your friends. But before we do that, if you're watching this on YouTube, pause it right now. In the comments down below, tell us what was your win for the week. Or it doesn't even have to be a win. What was your self reflection for the week? And then after you've written that down, you can continue the video.
I like it.
And
Call
we're
to
back.
action.
Continuing the video.
Let's
Getting
go.
some engagement on the YouTube section.
Yeah, it's about time, man, because we're like 5 episodes deep now, so we need to start getting a bit more interactive. And it's not just about sitting down and just listening to the two of us have a discussion.
It's not.
I mean, it isn't. But we went into this whole concept of the way that we want this podcast to run is to invoke thought, and more importantly invoke action. Because it's one thing to just to talk. I mean, we could literally just talk about anything for hours upon hours, but like that knowledge will just go to waste once you click off and you go to like another video, or if you're multitasking and you're just listening to us, that's great. But knowledge without action is just wasted words. So that's what we want, the sort of end goal of this to be, to actually invoke action, invoke thought-provoking, action-provoking thoughts, or is it thought-provoking action?
On both.
Bit of fuck yeah, bit of both. There we go. I am the fucking literal conundrum of this podcast. I play
Yeah.
devil's advocate with myself all the time. But anyways, enough of that. Why should you get into self-improvement? What are your thoughts, Sam? Why should someone get into self-improvement?
Self improvement. It's literally in the name.
Yeah.
Like, if we strip away our emotions for a bit and just think only in terms of the logic behind it, it's in the name. Self improvement. You're becoming a better version of yourself. Who doesn't want that? Who's going to come up and say, no thanks, I don't want to be a better version of myself. I want to stay the same crappy old version of me. I would argue everyone would want to be a better version, even if it's someone who, let's say, already made it in life in some way. They still have room to grow. And by no means are we saying that, me or anyone here is made it. We still have room to grow. I know I have room to grow. For example, in the gym, I know I can bench more. I know I can deadlift more. And let's say financially, I know I can make more money.
Yeah,
Let's say
100%.
life wise, I know I can have healthier and stronger relationships. Sleep wise, I know I can get better sleep. There's always elements somewhere in your life that you can get better at. And just from that logical perspective, everyone should be on self improvement. From a more emotional point of view, though, I think self improvement, or the idea of self improvement, does attract more on the, let's say, damaged people side of things. What I mean by that is, if you have a broad sample of the entire population, from most damaged to least damaged, I think the idea of self improvement attracts more towards the damaged side of things. And that's because usually, why do people seek improvement? Why do people seek help? Why do people seek answers? Why do people seek anything? So I have questions. A question such as, how do I get a girl to like me? Questions such as, why do I feel like shit? Questions such as, why do people not respect me? And inevitably, through one way or another, those questions lead to self improvement, or at least have the potential to lead to self improvement. So, how do I get the girl to like me? Be a higher value person. How do I do that? Self improvement. How do I get people to respect me? Well, they don't see you as high value. How do I be a high value person? Here we are again. Self improvement. A
That's
lot
the
of the
buzzword.
questions that Yeah, a lot of the questions that, especially the younger crowd, when I say younger, I mean in the teens or maybe early 20s, a lot of the questions that they ask lead to, or the core answer is, be higher value. Now, I know that's a very, very broad term, very, very generic term, higher value.
Yeah,
What does that even mean?
just like name
But
dropping.
no, yeah, but no matter what that actually means to you in that specific context, it is being higher value. Whether it's being richer, being stronger, being more outspoken, whatever characteristics that are relevant to your context, it is being higher value. And how do you be high value? Self improvement. Because self improvement, when we talk about our life, when we look at our life, it's not just, oh, the gym is one compartment of my life. Finances are another component. Relationships are another component. My diet is another component. They're not individual silos. Rather, it's one holistic bubble that is your life. And there are individual silos that are all interconnected within your bubble. So that if you have, let's say, poor health, poor physical health, that will very likely bleed into other aspects. People will look at you and say, "Oh, look at them. He doesn't look very healthy. Maybe he wouldn't be a good image for our company. Let's not hire him." Two identical people. One is just prettier than the other. Wouldn't blame someone for hiring the pretty person. Why wouldn't they? There's a
Yeah,
benefit to that.
yeah. It
And
all.
then if you have poor financial health, that might bleed into your relationships. If we take the extreme, if you're very, let's say you don't have enough money, you can't afford to go out. You can't afford to hang out with the friends that you have. And maybe your friends might take pity on you. Say, "Oh, don't worry, I'll buy the drink for you. I'll buy your meal for you." Well, then the relationship dynamic, the power dynamic falls different. Now
Mm.
you feels like you're in debt to them, and they feel like,
Yeah,
maybe they don't, but maybe it feels like that they have some power over you because, oh, look at you, you're so poor that I have to buy you a drink, that I have to buy you your meal.
yeah.
And
You're like
so
at that mercy.
yeah, kind of like, we're talking a bit extreme here, a bit exaggerated here, but the point is, every single aspect of your life is interconnected because they're all part of your life. We should take a holistic view rather than an individualistic view of each aspect of your life. They all bleed into one another in one way or another. So that's why you, dear viewer, should get into self improvement. So that
Oh.
sounds amazing, right? It's like, okay, sign me right up. I want to get into
Yeah.
self improvement.
Let's get in. Yeah,
But what about my
exactly.
friends? I want to get my friends into self improvement.
Ooh, yeah, that one. Different kettle of fish, though,
What do you reckon? Should I get my friends into self improvement?
eh? Well, the reason why I say it's a different kettle of fish is because each person has their own narrative, right? And that narrative is pushed by their insecurities or ambitions. And for me personally, I think before anyone tries to get anyone else into the self improvement or get them into the concept of it, you should you should lead by example. And this is maybe me just kind of taking a more sort of military esque approach, but I was always taught that if you're not capable of putting yourself through the motions of X, Y, and Z, you should not expect, your men, your troops to do that as well, right? Those are the qualities of a good leader. And in order to basically, you know, show people the way, you need to know and have gone the way. You know what I mean? You need to have like
Yeah.
done it in order to be able to start practice it. Practice what you preach. So
Yeah, you got to walk the walk instead of just talking the talk.
exactly. And I find there's too many people these days who will sort of just like skim the surface of something, and all of a sudden they're fucking experts, and they're just like, yeah, like I I I discovered this thing called like the red pill, and all of a sudden they're just like dating coaches, completely failing to grasp the concept of like what it's all about. Or people who get into touch on self improvement, and they just like hyper analyze one section and completely forget about the rest of it. And then people are influential, like you become an influence on your peer group, especially when they see you succeeding. So like a lot of my friends, for example, were like, hey Shrav, like your body's like looking amazing, like you've come so far, like look, I barely recognize you anymore. But then I don't immediately start like giving them you know like diet advice,
Diet
or
advice.
yeah, it's
Eh.
something like, oh yeah, I'm just like this fucking, all of a sudden, this fitness influencer. No, I don't believe that at all. I even go on my Instagram, for example. Every post that I make is
What's your Instagram?
oh, sk.alopi. Plug. No, but for anyone who does see it, anyone that does follow me, you'll see that I'm not making posts of myself like showing off my physique and everything, and then just saying, just do this, bro, just X, Y, and Z. No, every caption is personalized to me, because for me, it's it's so much more than just having a good body. It's internalizing the effort that it took to create that body, and then applying that to every other aspect of your life. So that's why I can say for myself, when it comes to self improvement, I practice what I preach. Why you should think really hard, think twice, maybe even think thrice before trying to get your friends into self improvement is, you need to ask yourself the following questions. Do I actually understand the concept of self improvement? Because it's a very vague term. It's a very vague term, even though it's also like simplistic, right? The reason why I say it's vague is because everybody has their own definition of self improvement. That's already your first point to understand and identify, because your idea of self improvement or self improving could be very different to your mate. Because to you, your idea of self improvement is, okay, I just want to look better so I can attract girls. Cool, no stress. Your friend might not give a shit about that. Your friend might actually just be thinking about, well, I just want to increase my finances, or I just want to live in a better location, which again has to do with finances. Um, could be something like they want to just improve their mental health. They don't actually care about looking better. They just want to feel better. So you're already on two different planes of the spectrum. And in order to be able to facilitate that and get them into it, you need to have attained that level yourself. You know, the second point is, have you gained enough experience? That you can see like all these points are interlinked, but they also stand alone on the same, like within the same breath, on the same token. Because if you don't have enough experience, when people ask questions, you're gonna come across as just unknowledgeable, lacking knowledge. And there's nothing more off-putting to somebody who's being introduced to a new concept than someone who has no idea what the fuck they're on about. It's like me trying to sell you a car and I know nothing about it. If I'm like, yeah, this is a car, it has an engine, four wheels, a steering wheel. I think it's got an e-brake.
Few doors.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
too. Yeah, I'm not too sure. Last I checked, the windscreen wipers worked. You're gonna be like, who is this clown? Get him out of my face. Whereas somebody who's studied, surveyed, knows the blueprints in and out, and starts telling you all the like, I mean, you know what?
Studied and played.
Yeah, the sleazy car salesman is, just the gift of the gab, and he's just chatting absolute shit, talking about the most inconsequential details, but because he knows the product to that degree, that's what makes it appealing. So when it comes to self-improvement, it's like, yeah, for example, me, the way that I've internalized it and understood it is there's like 5 pillars, because that's what I teach and what I talk about when I coach my own clients. I talk about the physical, the mental, emotional, the social, and the spiritual aspects to self-improvement. Immediately people are like, oh, okay. I didn't even know there was like a social element or a spiritual element. I thought that self-improvement was just physical and mental. It's like, no, dude. There's like a plethora of things that you can improve on. And when you go into details like that, even if the person is like somewhat skeptic, they can't help but be curious about it, because that's just natural human behavior. It's like natural human psychology. If I am talking with such enthusiasm about something because I have lived it and gained enough experience, and I've got the receipts. Like I am living proof that what I have studied, what I have done and internalized has worked for me, and it's just like that whole, and it could work for you too. The other person might be like, oh, maybe.
Playing U2 on Spotify.
What? Oh, my Google Hub just activated. One sec.
Okay. While you fix your thing, I also want to play the other side of the argument that you don't necessarily have to go into you don't necessarily have to get your friends into self-improvement with you in the coach position and them in the student position. It's also very possible that you and your friends are entering the self-improvement journey together. But if you're desperately or actively shoving self-improvement down their throat, they might not like it. They might not understand it. Even if you say the exact same words that we said, it's like, oh, it's going to be great. It's going to be like 5 pillars. You improve all aspects of your life. You're going to have a better life holistically, logically, blah, 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 blah. Even if you say all of that, they might not like it if you shove it down their throat.
Yeah.
It's like how, as a kid, your mum probably say, oh, eat your veggies, it's good for you. Eat your veggies, eat your fruits. And you're like, no, I don't want to eat my veggies.
I used to hate it, bro. I used to hate it because my mom used to just, yeah, literally like ram it down my throat, and it makes you resist it. You become resilient to it,
Exactly. It's like in that case, it's not literally self-improvement, but it improves your health eating those vegetables. It improves your gut health, your whatever. It's got tons of benefits. Everyone knows eating veggies is good for you. But do you care, especially as a kid? Even if your mom says, oh, it's good for you, it helps you, whatever.
Ah, man, I want to eat the crap.
Exactly.
I want my
eat
meat,
fish
my
and chips. I
sugar.
want to eat McDonald's. Yeah. No one, well, actually, not no one, but a lot of kids, they don't go, oh, thanks, Mom, for explaining the benefits. I'm going to eat it now.
Yeah.
No, people are way more emotional than we give ourselves credit for. We're a lot less logical than we give ourselves credit for.
100%.
Yeah. But what you said earlier about like you having the receipts, you being living proof, you being you leading by example, that's huge. If you for the quickly search for our viewers, quickly search BitConnect and the massive
Oh,
do you know what I'm
boy.
talking about?
I know about
The guy that's just like
BitConnect.
massively enthusiastic on stage going BitConnect.
Yeah.
A lot of people bought into that because
Just
it
the
was so
hype.
enthusiastic. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm so enthusiastic about it. It has to be real. Something has to be legit about this, right? Well, it turns out to be a big scam. But still, that shows the power of influence. It shows the power that if you can walk the walk, then people will end up believing you because they don't have any reason not to believe you, especially if you come up with them with such vigor, such enthusiasm, such strength, such you can throw all the random words you want at it.
Yeah.
You
Just
got to walk the
reinforced
walk.
attitude. You come at anyone with a reinforced attitude, and if they don't know you or your concept from like a fucking bucket of nails, but you come at them with like such conviction, then they'll be like, oh shit, because what happens is people draw comparisons. They draw comparisons to what they're experiencing right now in their life, and even if you're like fucking you're bum broke, but you rock up in a nice suit, you've got a suitcase or whatever, you look as though you're someone of high affluence, or you're rich or whatever, and you just spout this crap with enough emphasis and enthusiasm in your voice. It's literally it's literally like a con man's tactic, right? It is like
Mm.
how to con someone 101. And
Yeah.
that's that is something that you don't want to come across as, because what happens is, right, even though you might get your friends into the concept of self improvement, the train of thought is here's my friend who's talking about this thing like we've literally just invented sliced bread, right? Like they have just discovered fire, and I'm looking at my life and I'm still out here trying to slice my own bread, eating like just completely tearing.
What a peasant.
Yeah, like a fucking degenerate peasant. I don't even have fire, right? So I'm out here just like trying to like blow everything warm, and this guy is out here living his best life. You know, yeah, I got lost with that analogy, but you get the point. It's like they they draw that comparison and they think, oh, fuck, this guy must have the ticket. This is the next step to like living that abundant lifestyle, living that good life, getting getting to that to that next rung of the social ladder. Um, and then they then jump into it, and then they realize that it's not all it was cracked out to be, because they don't even fully understand what it is they're jumping
Mm.
into. And you know what you
You were
create then?
sold a dream, not a product.
You create a negative feedback, because that person then will start to think, well, this is a crock of shit. Everybody that's affiliated or associated to this idea is full of it. I want nothing to do about it. And then their influential circle starts to hear from them that, you know what, uh, don't listen to so and so if they approach you and start talking about self improvement. It's a scam, it's a hoax. This guy doesn't know what they're talking about. So leave it.
Mm.
And you've basically done the reverse of what you should be doing, or
Yeah.
rather what the intended outcome was. It's like how to lose friends and
How to lose
influence
friends 101.
people. Yeah, it's like how to what was it, how
How
to
to,
win friends and
yeah.
influence people, but like reversed. How to lose friends and make enemies. Basically.
Yeah. On that topic though, more broadly, even within the self improvement sphere community, even if you're already like, oh yeah, I know self improvement is good, there are a lot of there's a lot of misinformation.
Mm,
So some people might might purportedly say, okay, I've done this method, and even if they're not trying to be a salesman, even if they're not selling you a product or a course or a coaching or whatever, they might say, okay, this method has worked great for me, and they'll say anecdotally, it's been amazing. Whatever the method is, doesn't matter. It might be a breathing method, it might be a thinking method, it might be a journaling method, it might be a walking method, like how you walk. Or if I walk with pretending I have big balls or something, yeah, it might work for them.
yep.
It might work for them, but it doesn't mean it'll work for you. It could just be a crap load of bullshit, and they're just wheelbarrowing they're just carrying and selling their bullshit. And it might work for them, but it might just be bro science. It might just be a placebo. For example, like you guys know about placebos. Right? If I take a sugar pill, but I believe that it's a cure-all pill that fixes all my problems, if I believe it hard enough, I will act as if my problems have been cured.
Yep.
There's a lot of, even if people come up with good intentions, there's a lot of what I'll call like snake oil salesmen in, even if they're not actually selling you anything. They pretend, or they talk about things as if it is the the holy grail of
Yeah,
self-improvement.
the
Oh,
gospel.
do this
Yeah.
one thing. Yeah, do this one thing and your social skill will 10x, or do this one thing and your mental health would be fixed like an instant. A lot of times the actual thing is a lot more nuanced than do this one trick. Anyways, I think we're getting a bit sidetracked. We were supposed to be talking about getting your friends into self-improvement, why you should, and perhaps why you shouldn't. So we've covered the why you should. Why you should is it's great. Self-improvement is amazing. It's literally in the name. You're improving yourself. You're becoming a better version. And then if you're carrying your friends along with you along your journey, whether as fellow comrades or whether as a coach and they being your students, it's nice having everyone on the same page. But now, why shouldn't you get your friends into self improvement? We've already touched upon this earlier, and we'll say it again. They might not like it. As in, if you're shoving it down their throat, they don't want it. It's like as a kid, your mum shoves veggies down your throat, you resent her and you resent the vegetables. Later on in life, maybe now that you're slightly older, you're a teenager or you're in your 20s, now you're eating vegetables of your own accord because you've come to the conclusion that, yes, I need vegetables. They are, let's say you're on a bodybuilding diet, the very, very stereotypical chicken, broccoli, and rice. Hey, broccoli. Why do we eat broccoli? Is it because of any protein? Not necessarily. It's just because it's vegetables. It's filling. And then you eat the broccoli for that reason because you've convinced yourself, you've told yourself that, yes, I need broccoli to feel full and to add bulk to my diet so that I'm not starving and eating Twinkies all the time, and to have enough fiber so that I don't, end up constipating and shitting out a buttload of whatever blood.
Yeah, shitting bricks, literally. But yeah,
Yeah, shitting bricks.
protein
There we go.
bricks.
That was yeah. At that point, you've convinced yourself. You've taken the choice to go and eat broccoli, just as you've taken the choice to do self improvement. If you're shoving self improvement down someone's throat, it's like as a kid, if I shoved broccoli down your throat, you wouldn't like it. You would hate broccoli. You would think, no, broccoli is bad for me. Self improvement is bad for me. So that's, I reckon, the very big one. Another one, and this is a very minor reason, but it's a very selfish reason. It's kind of like, what's the first rule of Fight Club?
Talk about Fight Club.
You don't talk about Fight Club.
Yeah.
Being on self improvement gives you an unfair advantage. Maybe not immediately. Like if I hop on self improvement 1 week later, I'm not going to see tremendous results. But a month, a year, 5 years, 10 years, over 10 years, as I have, you start to see the results pile up. You start to see what self improvement can do to you and it can do for you. Now, I'm not some self improvement guru. I've fallen off the bandwagon plenty of times.
Oh yeah.
And yet, even so, I can definitely say being on self improvement, being a better version of myself, has made my life not even 10x better, 100x better. It really is that amazing. I know it sounds, now I'm starting to sound like a salesman for self improvement. Buy my self improvement course.
Cultist is a cultist.
Yeah, I'm in the self improvement cult. I've been found out.
Yeah, but you're right.
I'll be the first to say. You don't need coaching. You don't need coaching. You can go. There's so much free information online, and when I say coaching, I'm talking about self improvement here. But the same could be applied for bodybuilding, right? You don't need a coach. A lot of information's out there. A coach at that point isn't to give you information; it's to hold you accountable, keep you going, give you the prep talk and all that stuff. All of the knowledge you know yourself already. You can be found online. You don't need a coach for let's say running, right? You want to be a better runner, a faster runner or a slower runner. There's plenty of workouts online, plenty of structured programs with lots of detailed reviews they can find online. You don't need to pay for any of this. I'm not trying to sell you my course or my coaching or my whatever. I'm not even trying. There's no money to be made if I say, hey, you should get into self-improvement and you end up getting onto self-improvement. It really is that good. You know a product or you know something would speak for itself when There's no money to be made, and yet people would be singing its praises all the damn time.
Yeah.
It's the same thing here. Self improvement. I'm not making any money trying to get you onto self improvement, and yet I will regardless because it is just that good.
It's life changing. That's the
Especially
thing.
yeah, especially for me, it's the mental health aspect of it.
Yeah.
It
Same.
really, really cleared my mind and made me see the world, not necessarily the world. For me, it was mainly relationships. It made me see relationships with myself and with others in a very, very different light.
Same.
And this comes back to earlier, like, what is the meaning of self improvement to you? For someone who has, let's say, it's someone is a trust fund baby, their mum and dad have just left them millions of dollars. They're not in any need of financial assistance, but maybe they're socially stunted because they've been wrapped up in this trust fund bubble all their life. They don't know how to talk to people. Someone that they don't know, someone who doesn't know that they're a trust fund baby, maybe they'll crack a joke, maybe they'll be mean to them, and you wouldn't know how to handle it because all your life everyone's been walking on eggshells around you because you're the trust fund baby with all the money.
You're the
Some
most
stranger
powerful
comes up to
person.
you and says, yeah, some stranger comes up to you and says, hey, mate, I reckon you're ugly or you have a shitty haircut. All of a sudden, you're in shambles. So you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't know how to handle it.
Yeah. How dare you? How dare you? Was Greta when
My
you need
daddy
her?
will hear about this.
Yeah, exactly, right?
And vice
And
versa. If you grew up really poor, but because you grew up poor, you had to like develop a silver tongue. Then you've got the opposite problem. Social interactions are no problem for you, but you need money.
Yeah.
I know we're just talking about two extremes or two hypotheticals, but self improvement, even though it's one holistic bubble of your life, people focus on different aspects because those are the aspects that they need the help with the
it's all
most.
relative. Self improvement is relative. That's what it is. So, y- yeah, like you said, you might be someone who got into self improvement because you try to increase your social skills, like regarding dating. You just want to get better with girls, and that's cool. But your friend, who's like an absolute stud, may not need, may not need assistance with getting girls, but they might need assistance with their mental health, or even, even just kind of like maybe toning it down with girls, right?
Or
You're trying,
keeping something long term.
yeah, keeping
Because
something long
maybe
term.
maybe the stud or the Chad or whatever is like, yeah, easily gets a girl into bed, but has a hard time keeping them around for more than a month.
Yeah,
Because afterwards, the girl will be like, oh, okay, no, he's a bit too arrogant, or maybe he's a bit too childish, too much of a dick,
yeah,
too much this, too much that. And they leave. And he's like, what's going on? I have no problem talking to them. I have no problem getting them the first time, but I have a hard time getting them to stick around for more than a month.
yeah.
And yeah, everyone has their own, like, again, within the bubble, everyone has their individual silos that they might want to focus on. But like I said at the very start, all of those silos, now I'm calling them silos because they're meant to be independent, but they're not really independent silos. They're all interconnected in this
Yeah.
web or this bubble of
All
your
part of like
life.
a network.
Hmm.
Now, let's say moving forward from this, how would you go about, right? Seeing as we've seeing as we've identified reasons why you wouldn't get people into self improvement, how would you go about sort of essentially like the call to action? How would you go about managing this this sort of predicament? Like, you know that you're on your self improvement journey and it's working for you. We don't talk about self improvement, especially around people who don't really know that much about it, because again, you have like this edge, right? In my personal opinion, I don't see a problem with talking about like your self improvement journey, so long as it comes from a place where it's informative and you're humble
Yeah,
about it. You go around bragging and shoving it in people's faces, well, it actually undoes the whole process for you. It undoes the whole
mm,
process for you, but also it creates this air of arrogance, and then
absolutely.
no
It's like,
nobody
look at
likes
me,
an
I'm better
arrogant
than
dude.
you.
Yeah, exactly. It's like when you start going to the gym, right, and you feel those tremendous like the the newbie gains, right?
Yeah,
You
the newbie
feel
gains.
you feel so great about it, and then all of a sudden you think
I
that
remember
you,
being so proud of my newbie gains.
dude, I was like that too, and then I realized like there were guys who've been in the gym for like 6 years plus who can like outdo me in pretty much every exercise, and I was just like, fuck, you know. And then that's like a whole new level of trying to level up. But compared to the people who don't go to the gym, they're like, oh yeah, like you can lift this, you can push that, and like you fill your shirts out so much better and everything, and you're just like, yeah, I'm the man, I'm the man. And then the guy next to you who's been in the game for a lot longer looks better, but he's just humble as hell because again, it's all relative, it's all down to you. How to handle this whole situation though, especially when friends come into the equation. My personal take is you just do you. You let your actions do the talking for you. And I've been seeing this whole um expression come up a lot in my sort of like peripheral vision is if they wanted to, they would. So if someone wants to get on self improvement, or if they want to, engage with the community or learn about it, well, then they will. And, if you're a friend who happens to be on that pathway, well, then you're just essentially like a source of information. You're like a sort of like satellite of self improvement Wikipedia, like self improvement wiki for that friend, right? And then of course there's other avenues like you've got YouTube and all, like Reddit as well. Massive sources, hubs of information that they themselves can tap into and find where they sort of fall within that sphere. But instead of going to people and be like, hey man, like have you heard about self improvement? Do you want to try this? Do you want to try that? I've been doing this. Maybe you should do this. It'll be great. Instead of doing that, just do what you're doing. Do what you were doing that got you to level up anyways. Let them see that. And if they want to get into it, let them take the action. Because when you take action away from people, or you force people to go into sort of like a state of taking action, it disempowers their internal drive. But if they do it themselves and it comes internally from themselves, well, guess what? That's exactly how you got into self improvement. That's exactly
Yeah,
what they
actually, that's a
need.
good point.
That's exactly what they need to get into self improvement. It needs to be from an internal drive. Like for me, I had to hit rock bottom and be like, dude, this is fucked. Like we are not in a good place. Like, we need to do something about this, or else we could potentially be checking out of life before we even reach our 40th birthday. You know, that's 12 years from now. Oh, back then it was like what, 13, 14 years? I was like 26 when I really started to sort of understand and get into the sphere somewhat. And then I started taking it seriously only in like the last year and a bit. But again, it's all relative because you've got like 14-year-olds who are getting into self-improvement. I think that's a bit crazy, but hey, to them it's very real because you don't know their story. They might be thinking, right, I need to like completely capitalize on like my life now so I can get to this position by this time, or I'm in a much better place of like self actualization by this time. And the thing that gets that person there is they have to realize that, internalize it, and be their own call to action. Because if I just come into the room and be like, hey kid, get on self improvement, because if you don't, your life's gonna be shit, and you end up like me potentially or something like that. Well, they don't know anything. They don't know any better. They don't know who I am. I'm just some guy who literally just came out of nowhere and just sold them a fucking dream. But if they can see that dream and then they start to believe in taking the steps to achieve that dream, it's so much more powerful. And the chances are the person will actually commit to their own program rather than trying to commit to yours. because yours is tailored to you. They will then create theirs that becomes tailored to them. And that's, that's sort of like what I that that's the whole concept of self-improvement, because it's all about yourself.
Yeah, it's
Push
in the name.
yourself. Yeah,
Self improvement.
exactly.
Yeah. So the you, right? You, the viewer, the person watching this or listening to this, think about what got you into self improvement. There was probably something specific to you. Now, I like what you said earlier about, there's some crazy like 13, 14-year-olds already on self improvement. And I think it's a good thing. But if they get the wrong message that, oh, I'm so much better than everyone because I'm on self improvement so much earlier,
Yeah,
that might actually detract from them later on in life.
there's a fair bit of that as well.
Yeah. And I also like what you said about earlier. You had to hit rock bottom for you to take this seriously, for you to see that, okay, I really need to get onto self improvement. I think for those 13, 14-year-olds, because I used to be, not 14, I got into it maybe, I'd say around 15, 16
Yeah,
is
you
when I
said like
first started. It's like,
10 years plus,
yeah,
right? You've been in
yeah, 10 years plus.
the idea of it. Yeah, it's
I didn't take
crazy.
it like super seriously until for me. So for people who've seen my videos, like I used to be bullied a lot, basically in my entire schooling career, kindergarten, year 12, bullied a lot. And I would ask myself all these questions like, well, why am I getting bullied? Why me? When I say the same words that someone else does, like if I say the same thing and someone else says the same thing, why do I get made fun of? Why don't they get made fun of? So it's not the words, it's something to do with me. And I started seeking all these answers. And, the internet is full of information, some not so great information. And I had to make a lot of stumbles along the way. And then in uni, when all the bullying magically stopped, that's when I really, really asked. Like, that didn't get me into self improvement per se, but in a funny roundabout way, I tried to look for the answers of why did the bullying stop? And that got me into self improvement, like
Yeah.
proper. It's like, why did the bullying stop? Okay, probably because everyone's trying to be more mature and grown up about it. But it just felt so weird. And I was just seeking more answers and more answers. And then I started seeing actual like leaps and bounds in terms of results with my social interactions. Now that this heavy fog, heavy veil of bullying was lifted, all of a sudden I could see social interactions for the very first time. It's like when, as kids, like 5, 6-year-olds, or maybe even in preschool, you learn to make friends with other kids. For me, that was my very first time trying to make friends with other people. Because before that, forget trying to make friends. I was just busy coping. I was too busy trying to survive, trying to not off myself. And
Yeah.
I wasn't bothered making friends because I just knew, well, I knew internally that no, there's no such thing as friends. All those friends just end up bullying me regardless. Okay, so without diving too deep into that, self improvement has to come from what's relevant to you. So your problems are not your friends' problems. Well, they might be. In that case, great. You share the same struggle. You guys can share the same journey. But usually, your struggles are unique to your struggles are unique to yourself. Which means if you try to force your version of self improvement onto someone else, it doesn't make sense. You have fundamentally different worldviews. And actually, this is going to be like the next topic. Why some people just reject self improvement overall. They're not like, they don't even entertain the thought. They just say, no, I don't need self improvement. Because their worldview, the way they see the world, the way they project themselves onto the world, is fundamentally different. The example that I used earlier, before we started recording live, was if you grew up very, very, very Christian, and then suddenly you were moved into a very, let's say, Buddhist or a very Islamic or whatever, like a different religion where everyone else believes something different and everyone else acts differently, then there's no way you can reconcile your beliefs with their beliefs without some sort of either compromise or some sort of breaking of beliefs.
Yeah, like a clash.
yeah, there's definitely a clash. So if someone fundamentally believes that there's no need for self-improvement for whatever reason, maybe they've had a very, very happy life. Maybe they're one of the very rare individuals who've had a very happy life and don't see the need to work on themselves. Because if you think about it, like self-improvement does require work. Dopamine detox, that requires you giving up a lot of things that are fun. Dieting, that requires you giving up, well, maybe not necessarily giving up, but it requires you to put more effort, put more thought into the foods that you consume.
Yeah, it's
Going to the gym,
compromise. Yeah.
yeah, going to the gym is, well, it's fun for me. It's probably fun for you as well, but at least at the start, it hurts. It's like, oh, what why go through the pain? So
Oh
if
yeah.
your worldview, if their worldview is fundamentally different to yours, there's no discussion to be had. That's not to say they can't get onto self improvement. Perhaps somewhere down the line, some event causes them to change their worldview. Let's say, like using a very extreme example, let's say I used to believe, well, someone used to believe that all girls were Disney princesses and they could do no wrong. Girls don't fart, girls are perfect. And then later down the line, they get in a relationship and things turn sour, and the girl does something that fundamentally breaks that worldview. All of a sudden, the thought, the belief that girls are perfect disappears. And he realizes that actually, girls are human just like us, just like me.
And they do
If
fart.
anything, yeah, they do fart.
Yeah. It's always weird. It's always weird, like hearing a girl fart. Like even to this day, sometimes I'm like, what the fuck? Like I was in a like a Pilates class, just very quickly. I was in a Pilates class with at the with my gym. And one girl, yeah, like we were just we were doing like cat cow pose, and then yeah, she just let out like this, just like this little like yeah. I was like, what the fuck was that? And then, just kind of like stopped and looked around, and then I just see this chick's face just going redder than a tomato, and I was like, wow, I just like witnessed a girl fart in 4K, and it's like something so normal becomes like so surreal because again, like we as guys, we get taught like women women don't do these things, they're like a different breed, and just again,
Yeah,
just
like we're
confirming your
exaggerating, of
narrative.
course.
Yeah, obviously, like don't cancel me, guys, but yeah, you know what I
Cancelled in
mean.
4K.
Yeah, cancel it, okay, but yeah, just to sort of like confirm your statement. Yeah.
So yeah, so back to that. The worldview can change. After that happens, after he realizes that girls are humans too and they fart as well, his worldview has changed. And then as a result, perhaps he's now more open to certain thoughts or certain beliefs or certain avenues. And then as the worldview changes and adapts over time, as it evolves over time, and everyone's worldview evolves as they receive more information. If you think about when you were, let's say, 5 or 10, you probably thought, oh, adults look so cool. They're like so big and grown up and they get all this freedom. They do whatever they want. And for all the adults watching this, you probably realize that no, if anything, there's less freedom. We have a lot more responsibilities. We have bills to pay. We've got this to do, that to do. Our worldview evolves over time. And so, even if now, right now, your worldview and their worldview are fundamentally different, that's not to say perhaps next week, next month, next year, there might not be start to be some kind of overlap and then more overlap. And until you can get them into self improvement, not in a preachy way, like, oh, you need to do self improvement, it's good for you, but more of a, hey, I invite you to come on this journey with me.
Yeah.
It might not be for you, but look into it. Come in with an open mind. The less preachy you are about it, like preachy as in like, oh, I'm better than you, you have to do this, it's good for you. And the more inviting you are, the more open you are to the possibility that they might not see things the way you do, the more likely that it's going to be successful. And I think ultimately that is how you get people into self-improvement, by seeing things from their worldview, seeing things from their point of view, their perspective. Okay, they've got this problem, not your problem, their problem. Here's how self-improvement potentially could help them with that improvement. And be open to the possibility that they're just going to reject you and say, no, I don't need self-improvement. I don't need to work on myself. I don't want to give up Netflix. I don't want to give up my games. I don't want to give up blah, 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 blah.
That's fine.
Be open to that possibility.
And that's fine. That's also a fundamental thing that you yourself, for anyone that's on the path needs to internalize is that if they don't want it, if they reject it, that's okay. Just because you meditate and you read books over playing video games and like watching TV shows, or just kind of like watching sports or sitting around just like doing things that a lot of people in the community would consider to be a waste of time, doesn't mean that you're superior, or you have some sort of like god complex. Do not get a god complex because of
Mm.
what you're doing, right? And I'm going to say this part here, right? Because I know that there are a lot of Hamza viewers who watch us, people who internalize this concept that if you play video games, you're a piece of shit, and you have no place um sort of in the community, or just in some extreme cases, because I have seen it within the particular, like in the Discord, people saying like, yeah,
Yeah.
you should just apparently playing video games is just like dying. Like, okay, that's a very extreme um sort of
Different ways to look at
analogy to
it.
make. Yeah, a very extreme way to look at it. Okay, there are people who do actually work on self improvement and improving their lives, who also do play games, who do watch TV shows, who will do the things that would be deemed a waste of time. They still do those things, and they also improve whatever situation that they feel needs to be improved in their lives, right? The,
Mm.
the point to take away from that is everyone's different, and everybody has their own sort of way of operating. Okay, just because someone plays games and says, "Oh, I'm still working on myself," or "I'm still doing X, Y, and Z," isn't a cope. That could just be for them. That could just be like an outlet, or something as simple as they just enjoy doing it, and that is, I think, you know, because we have to wrap this up soon. I think this is going to be my closing statement. Whether you decide to go on self improvement now, right? Whether you're a new viewer, you're new to the community, like and subscribe, by the way, if you're new to the community. Uh, if you're new and you've seen this and you've seen the other episodes, and maybe you joined the Discord or whatever it is, whatever you're doing, make sure that you enjoy it, please, because there is nothing more soul destroying than grinding away, like literally, use a gamer analogy, like padding your stats for no sense of fulfillment. If you are doing something just because you think you should be doing it, and not because you want to do it and you also enjoy doing it, there's no point in doing it. You're actually better off not doing anything at all. And I'll tell you why. Because you'll reach a point where you end up resenting the very thing that you're doing, which will then internalize within yourself, and you just become a bitter, hateful, resentful person, and it becomes that much harder for you to undo the damage that you're currently doing. It actually becomes detrimental. So, believe it or not, there is also a dark side to self improvement, and this is what we're going to cover in the next episode. Sam, closing
We are.
statements? We are. We
I've,
are.
I've got, I've got like two or three things I want to talk about.
Yes, send it.
First, it's called self improvement, not self perfection. As long as you are improving yourself, you're self improving. Let's say you used to be a fat, lazy bum, plays 5 hours of video games a day, and does nothing productive. Now you do 5 hours of video games, but you do 1 hour of something productive, whether it's reading a book or going for a walk. It's an improvement. You're still playing games, yeah. And are games good for you? There's probably arguments to be made for both sides. Yeah, you might enjoy it, but it's also it destroys your attention span. It's not good for dopamine detoxes. There's arguments to be made for both sides. But as long as you're improving yourself, you're working to become a better version of yourself, a little bit of vices here and there, absolutely fine. Again, it's self improvement, not self perfection. I forgot the other thing I wanted to say.
It's okay. That happens. And that's okay. That's okay. See? Classic example right there. You're not the
Yeah, I
you're not
should
the
have written it
perfect.
down.
Sorry, man. This was off the fly, anyways. But yeah, that's it for me. If you do, you have, is it coming back or
No,
no?
if I remember it, I'll write it in the comments below. Otherwise, that's it from us today.
That's it. All
Enjoy.
right, guys. Yeah, enjoy, guys,
Done.
and see you in the next one.